Matthew, great to see you again. It's been a long time since September, but it's always great to talk to you and be together with Crux. So here I am to update anything you want to ask.
I'm going to go for it. Well, you're lucky. You're talking about copper, one of my favorite commodities of the moment. So let's talk about what you've been up to since September. Okay, so I think first of all, let's start with the balance sheet. You've kind of got this credit facility in place with some names that people recognize. So tell us about that.
That was something really important. We had a lenders group that included Firelab, that's Pierre Lasson, that gave us a credit facility for a total of 50 million. We already have 10 million of those 15, and we can pick up the 5 whenever, if ever, needed. So that puts us in a very good position to keep the program and drilling program as that we plan to start October this year. That facility, I really have to appreciate, Pierre Lasson coming in and showing this strong support to us, and together with the Trinity. And third, we got Beatty Investments coming in for first time. And I think they're very welcome, and they're a great group that are planning to support us on the long term. So we're really excited to have the money. But additionally, what is really important is that not only did we get that, management and friends of management that have invested in the first pass, Pierre Lasson, have come in with 2.9 million Canadian into the bank. And Pierre and Trinity are going to back us up with another 2.5 million. So it's not only the facility that's great, we're also getting backed by management, by friends, and by Pierre and Trinity by bringing in warrants, exercising them, of course. Mm-hmm.
Right. So where does that kind of put you at the moment? Because does that 15, I know you've drawn down 10 already, so the cash position is actually what, I'm trying to work out what the total sum is and what you've got available in terms of delivering that drill program.
It's close to 20 million Canadian that we have right now. So
right. And you got a bunch of warrants coming through as well, no?
We'll have more warrants, but that's coming in through time. But about 2.5 million that's coming now from Firelight and Pierre and Trinity. So we're really excited with having the funds to start the next program and really start with a great intensive.
Right. And I guess you would point people to look at, obviously, Pierre Lasson and Ross Beatty putting money in, suggests that the diligence they've done gives this the big thumbs up. So then it's really a case of, can you help us understand what they bought into in terms of the drill program? Because I think from previous discussions, these holes are deep. They're expensive, $1.5 to $2 million each. So they got to kind of give up a lot of data. So how are you coming at the drill program?
I think, we started with last conversation was September. From September to now, we've drilled 8 drill holes. Out of those 8 drill holes, I think 7 have been magnificent, 6 to 7 have been magnificent. They all show mineralization. And I always say, and our best hole was 11B. That's a surprising hole because why is it called 11B? We took a drill hole that was from Hawkshot, that was down to almost 1,000 meters. We started to drill from 800 meters and did one going to the east to find our central high-grade trend. But as we had seen fragments of early porphyry in that drill hole, we went physically straight down on it to see if there was a porphyry below. And that's where we hit 1,342 meters at 0.73 copper. That was quite amazing. That's our best hole to date. And I always say, we haven't drilled the best, we haven't drilled the worst. Okay? So that's 11B. But apart from that, we have great results on our last hole, 24, which was interesting because we started drilling with 11B. With 11B, we discovered the western high-grade trend. Okay? We came about 250 meters south of that, and we drilled drill hole 24. And we got 670 meters of 0.84% copper equivalent. It includes 312 meters with 1% copper equivalent. That's just about 250. Well, what's interesting, that hole, apparently the porphyry probably starts coinciding, coalescing the central trend with the western trend. And then our drill hole 23, that was 200 meters north of 11B. That gave us 940 meters with 0.7 copper equivalent, 600 meters with 0.8, and 120 meters with 0.9. So these are great holes. And apart from that, we have 11B that was successful, 22 and 22A, great holes. So it's been a magnificent program. And I always say we came from proof of concept in early 2022, to now starting to develop the size of the deposit that's still open. And this is only 1.5 years of drilling.
Right. Well, tell me a little bit about this, because to some, this is kind of a new concept drilling. I know there's lots of peers and so forth, but I'm talking about the investors who may not necessarily understand how something like this becomes a mine. So can you point to a few of the variables here? Okay, first, let's look at, you talk about copper equivalent numbers. So therefore, I guess what's going to be important relatively soon is to try and understand the cost of accessing those ounces, the recoverability, the payables, that sort of thing. So what can you tell us in terms of what others are doing in the region similar to you, so that we understand that this thing could be an economic mine at some point?
Okay, well, right now I'd say Chile has a lot of underground deep operations, okay, and that do block caving. Crux is just taking off. El Teniente is known for some time. El Salvador's been. So there's a lot of expertise in block caving and deep underground mining. That's an advantage that we have in Chile. Second is that the mineralization in this deposit, you take off on an upper part that has a bit of gold, then you come into, that's for about 100, 150 meters from surface, below surface. Then you've got kind of 400 to 600 meters of not much mineralization. Then, well, really 400. Then you come into a zone that you have initial copper mineralization, but it's covellite replacing pyrite. So there's a little horizon there. And after that, you come into the chalcopyrite ridge zone, which is the main porphyry zone. And you're coming in through all this is in host rock. It's not in porphyry. It's in broken up. When the intrusives come up, they break the rock, and it's all breccias. That's mineralization. And all of a sudden, about 1,000 meters below that, you start hitting the porphyries, and you start getting very high grades in the porphyry, in the early porphyries. So you have a whole sequence. So as you go deep, you get better grades. So when you go underground and you're going to start a block caving or a deep program, you're going to start with a high grade first, then you're going to get the lower. The high is kind of 1% copper equivalent. The lower is going to be about 0.7. Okay, so it's not all is not bad, but you start with a high grade. So the economics, we don't have them yet, but we don't see any issue if we have enough high grade. The second thing is metallurgy. I think it's going to be a typical metallurgical program like in any other porphyry. We don't see any deleterious material that will affect that part. What is complicated? Water. In Chile, it's always, and we'll have to bring it out from sea. But so there's some pros, there's some complications, and there's a lot. And they're starting to drill, making underground operations that go down almost to 2,000 meters, similar to what we would have.
Okay, so there's lots of comps to look at in terms of not just the numbers involved, but also the skill sets required to do that in country. I hear what you're saying there. And the water you mentioned, it's seawater you'd be bringing in. Is that right?
Yep, quite a distance.
Okay. Right, big permits and licensing and all of that sort of stuff to be discussed later, or is that something that you kind of start the process with now? Now you're starting to sort of see that this could become something.
I always think that you've got to have a social license to operate, and that's a part we're working on. We're along the Huasco Valley. The Huasco Valley has had its history of anti-mining in some conditions and had a very tough time, Barrick had, with the Pascua project. So it's something that you have to work on. We are working continuously with the communities, talking to. There's no community where the project is. The first one's about 40 k's away, but we come up the road along these communities. You have to make sure that part is work. And we're working on that. And I think we're advancing in de-risking the project in many ways. De-risking first by getting the right financing and having Pierre back us up in Lausanne. We de-risked a bit the financing. We de-risked the drilling, because drilling up in the high Andes is very complicated. And most holes, about 1/3 of the holes, don't reach objectives, especially if they're deep. We brought in recon drilling this year at the beginning of the year. Well, really in October last year, this season. And it's been a game changer. We've reached all holes to the objective, because if we're losing a hole, you can come back up and deviate it and re-deviate it, come to your position original through that drilling. So it's been fantastic having recon drilling, and that's been a game changer. So that's another de-risk. Our drilling has de-risked a bit the size of the project and is showing that high grade exists. So we are also having to de-risk the environment, the social part, and all the ESG to make sure this goes ahead. And we're working in all three aspects.
Right. And talk about how you, because like I say, I look at some of the comps out there, people looking at Filo and going, crikey, they're knocking out of the park, Barracks, Antofagasta, etc. You've got to put a lot of holes into this and try and work out what it is that you've got. Obviously, with whether it be porphyries or early intermediate porphyries, and you even mentioned breccias in there. It's a complex system in some ways. How much more drilling? How many more meters? How much more money? How much more time before you actually say, well, do you know what? Let's actually put a flag in the sand and try and get some economics around this.
Well, if you think about this, Hochschild had drilled 3 holes into the porphyry. We've drilled 10 into it. There's 13 holes into this. This is nothing for the size of a porphyry. We're already delineating 1,000 meters long, 1,000 meters wide, and 1,000 meters deep, right? But we're just drilling to get a free feeling of the size. We're not infill drilling to make this measured and indicated resource yet. So there's a lot to go. Probably, I would think that you need at least another 50 to 70 holes come into indicated at least have been measured in that 70 holes. Each one from 2,000 to 1,000 meters. It'll depend, because we can do directional drilling. We can use pre-existing holes that come out for that. So that's going to cost another $50 to $70 million.
Right. So you're building something big, and you're hunting giants or super giants or behemoths in terms of the deposit size. So again, just to remind us of the sort of the scale of the opportunity that big companies want to try and find that get funded, that continue to get funding, because $70 million or so, it sounds like a big chunk of change for a junior company, right? So
it is.
What gets people going? What gets the bankers going, the funders going?
I would say our focus on the high grade has been important, because our first program that was proof of concept, we had one drill hole from Hochschild that hit, about 100-something meters, 150, 70 meters of 1% copper equivalent. We went towards that, 300 meters of something. We went and said, let's see if it has extension north and east, and really north and south. And we drilled drill hole 17. That came out beautifully. We had 550 meters, 1% copper equivalent, plus almost 900 meters, 1,000 meters in total, of about 0.78 copper equivalent. So this means we proved it there. 19, we just didn't hit the target. We didn't get there. But we started seeing high grade. Today, we've seen high grade with 11A, with 11B, with 23, with 24. So we're starting to dimension. We started with the central high grade zone. We found the western zone. Maybe they coalesce to the south. So it's getting exciting. We're starting to see the presence of high grade in continuity. That's what's going to make it, because that's what's going to pay for the CapEx. And then after that, you're going to get the rest. But the CapEx needs high grade, and we're finding. So that's right, really important.
It is important. And we talked to a number of juniors, and they're they feel like they're they're near a porphyry. They're on the edges of a porphyry, and sometimes they can't find the porphyry. But these things tend to, appear in clusters or in groupings. So in a way, I guess it could be exciting to go chasing it after new porphyry discoveries because discoveries move the needle. But at the same time, they're not that easy to find. So you're on one. Do you stay on one for a little bit longer? At what point do you say, well, I think we've got enough here and we move off and try and make a second discovery, porphyry discovery?
Well, first of all, think, when I picked up this project, I picked it up originally for hot shell. They drilled there. I wasn't in hot shell when they hit the first 3 holes. Each hole was in the order of 1,000 meters of mineralization, vertical. You don't get 1,000 meters of mineralization without something being big. You just have to dimension and find the size and the geometry of it. That's why we came back, picked it up, and started this drill program. We got Pierre to back us up on this proof of concept. Well, it's been growing. Now we have, because they had 1,000 meters vertical, but they had no idea of extension. Now we have 1,000 meters along strike, 1,000 meters wide. That's showing you that porphyries are big. And if you look next door at El Encierro, they've got a 2.5 billion in mineral inventory and 550,000 inferred resource. But 2.5 billion is a tremendous sum. So that's, as you were saying, cluster. We have one immediately 5 kilometers north of us. We're here and we're growing. We're presently preparing our first resource, really, after significant drilling. That should be coming out a month, between a month and a half more. And that's going to be a significant show of what this drilling has meant. But when you take El Encierro, you take Valeriano, you're seeing a tremendous distance.
Okay, but coming back to this, how you plan these things out, because these holes are deep. You've done a lot of meters, but not necessarily a lot of drill holes per se. So the intervals are ridiculously big. They are fantastic, and on a copper equivalent basis, these are super, super great. Global average seems to be about 0.4% at the moment. So you're kind of hitting that sense of it. I guess I'm intrigued by how you go about, let's say, planning out the drill program, because each time you drill, you get a ton of new data. You possibly even should change your view of what it looks like under the ground. So what is that kind of rigorous process to making sure that these, what are quite expensive drill holes, are perfectly planned and, will continue to add to the data set positively, whilst also delivering what the market needs, is more news of high-grade copper equivalent over long intervals?
That's a good question, and I forgot to answer part of what you said. People are saying they're close to porphyry. I was explaining the size of this district, just to give you an idea, that if you don't find some significant mineralization in your drilling and you hit a porphyry and you don't find the grade or the size, just walk out. These things are big. We're already talking about, in our case, more than a kilometer by a kilometer by a kilometer, and we're still open in all directions, right? So this is going to grow. El Encierro, that's next door, they drilled over 2 kilometers strike length, and they still are open in all directions, especially towards the east. So these things are big. So when you're drilling a porphyry, you got to think big, and if you don't hit something big, you probably put another couple of holes and then decide to walk off. Not that it's not there, but you just didn't have the right model to find it. Okay, now we're in it. Okay, we're in it. So what do we do? How do we focus our exploration? First of all, always think, what's going to make it into a mine? Especially if it's close to surface, you have one conditions. If it's steep like ours, we need high grade. Our advantage, as I told you, was high grade that is steep, and we're finding it continuous. How do we plan our drill holes? Basically, you plan them on rigorously going at a certain distance, drilling outside of the box that you already know, and start extending it. And as it's a porphyry, a 200-meter move out in any direction is not too large. In any other deposit, 200-meter step out sounds like crazy. Here, you're testing. So we still don't know our limits absolutely, but you do it. Now, you're a bit of luck because you don't know when you're going to run out. You have some geophysical models that give you an idea that's got about a 3-kilometer diameter, and it might be subcircular, but really you need to go through the process of drilling it consistently on a good grid pattern to really understand it. But it grows, especially focus on your high grade in our case. So we hit a high grade, we focus on extending.
Okay. Makes sense. So just I want to kind of get some numbers from you, just really simple numbers for you, so people get a sense of what's coming up. So you've sorted out the balance sheet. You've kind of got not only the money in, but the type of money that you've got in is kind of interesting, and points to a confidence and a kind of aggressive ambition to what you want to do over the next 12 months. So can you give us in terms of meters or dollars what you're going to be doing over the next 12 months in terms of the drill bit?
Absolutely. We're planning to come back in October as always, start our drilling program. It's been snowing a bit, so we're going to have to clean up and make sure. We have to extend our camp for 40 people because we want to grow the amount of drilling we're going to do. So we're going to start with 2 to 3 rigs until we complete the camp, and then we're going to try to go up to 4 or 5 rigs early next year. So that can take us, think that each drill hole can drill about 1,000 meters plus 900 to 1,000 meters per month, okay? And that's going to take us for 7 months of drilling. So maximum a drill rig can do 7,000 with luck, 6,000, put in 6,000, 3 rigs, 18,000. So it's going to be in the order of 20,000 plus meters that we want to do. And our cost per meter is between 900 and 1,000 meters complete total cost, including everything. So that puts us another, coming up to numbers, we're already spending the money we have and more.
Yeah, no, I get it. And it's fine because you will replenish it if you keep delivering these sorts of numbers over these sorts of intervals for sure. And I guess, in the backdrop of a copper market, which is extremely positive, I think it's just 398 today, and not too many new stories coming online. It seems now there's a lot going on in Chile. I mean, obviously we've spoken a few times of what's going on in Chile. I think the government seems to be sort of backing mining again. Not the same obstacles in place, and no real. The issues aren't there in the way that they were maybe two years ago, it seems like. I mean, how are you finding and doing business on the ground?
I would not like to be the president of Chile. Having to back up mining and having to back up, investment with my personal thoughts different to that, like he's always expressed. So he must be in a pickle, trying to balance and knowing that he's running a country, he's not running his ideas. So it's his problem, but definitely things are not going south at all. We had the rejection of the new constitution. They brought in a voting for another one, and it went to the other extreme, went from left extreme to right. Now, 2/3 of the constitutionalists are right or right party. So it's a crazy country. It's clearly we don't know where to go, how to go, because we're confused like the rest of the world is. But I think we do know we're a mining country and we have to support mining because that's the way that we're going to get funds to improve our country. So I think that's clearly improving a lot. And you're seeing a lot of things that are going through the environmental permitting being approved that the initial part of this government was not. So I'd say it's looking positive. This government has 2 years to go and it's going to change. So, it'll be 2 years that I don't think much is going to happen negatively. And I think we're open to, the country wants really an open market. I just saw an encuesta, how do you say encuesta? A poll that says about 60% to 65% of the Chilean wants to have free trading in the open market. So, it's calm. one thing is what people think, another thing the government, but I think it's going to go in that direction definitely with time. So I feel that Chile, be confident that Chile can have a bit of a ruffle and situation, but it's going to eventually find its way positively forward.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear it. I'll be in Santiago in October to see it for myself with our own copper project out there. And just in terms of again, just sticking with kind of balance sheet stuff, if you don't mind. Now, clearly, in terms of ownership of the asset, you've got a payment due in September. This year and another one in a couple of years after that. Clearly, with the money being raised at the moment, are you parking some of that up now? I know you can pay some of it in shares, some of it in cash, but are you putting that money aside now, or do you feel that you'll be raising any more money between or expecting warrants through before September 1st this year?
Part of the money that we have from the credit facility, what we've been getting from exercise of early warrants, are definitely going into our 49% ownership.
Yeah,
that is on the. Cool. That's on August 29th. It's before September 1st. It's on August 29th. And that payment is less than a month. Yeah. So that's going to go forward. And we're going to have 49%. Then we have another payment. That's $3.5 million that we can pay half in shares and half in cash at our discretion.
Yeah.
Then 2 years after, we have an $8 million payment that takes 200%. That's by 29th of September of August 2025. Then I think we're definitely going towards 100%. That's for sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, good.
But I think the exciting news is that are coming up, I'd say, and keep in mind for the shareholder. One is
for sure.
We're coming up
with... I think I mean, what's that? Obviously, so we're looking at October as usual for the start of the drill season. Between now and then, anything happening? It's not too far away, but anything happening?
It is. That's what's exciting. We're working, completing a new 43-101 that includes a new resource estimate. And I think that's going to really be good for the shareholders to see what they've invested in. Yeah. The value of the
and so what does the 2020 resource estimate tell us?
Was about 300 million tons. Okay, at 0.78% copper equivalent.
Okay.
So that was that. But that was done on those 3 drill holes plus 2 that hit a little bit. And so there was a very early stage look at what it looks like. Now we've got, 13 holes into it. Makes a difference. Makes quite a big difference on what we're looking. 3, you got 13. You're going to get a feeling of size and probably what we're going at. Second, we're doing a metallurgical program that we should have by end of September, October, we should have a result. So you're going to be looking at what that looks like. Then we're starting our drilling in October. So things are really aligning and we're coming with news all the time. Third, 2 of the holes that we had to leave the project, not completing 2 holes. Hole 24 was missing 400 meters of drilling, and we ended in high-grade mineralization. As I told you, we have 670 meters at 0.81 copper equivalent, and if we continue for 400 meters more, that's going to probably be the most spectacular hole that we have. But we didn't finish it. And then we also had drill hole 23 that although we got interesting results, at significant meter, we still have to complete it. So we're really going to start the program coming back in holes that are in mineralization. So it's going to immediately bring results back out in the short term. So things, I think, are looking positive in that sense.